Alright folks, welcome back to another possibly exciting episode of Live Fire Cooking with Grandpa's Pride. Tonight we're tackling the granddaddy of Southern barbecue. We're going to do some pork. We're doing pork butt, and contrary to popular belief, no, the pork butt does not come from the butt. Actually, using this very technical visual aid, the butt comes from the shoulder. It's part of the, you got the picnic, I believe is what it is, and then you have the butt. This is part of that right up here. So it's more like the upper arm, if you will. So kind of think of it as doing a lot of work, a lot of movement. So it's riddled with delicious fat, because we know fat's flavor. It does a lot of work, so you really got to kind of cook it low and slow for a long time to really break it down, unless you cook it hot and fast, in which case it doesn't take as long. So we're going to be doing the low and slow method on this. So this is the night before. I am going to be prepping the butt. I'm going to do two of them actually, because you can do two, and just as easy you can do one. And then what I'll wind up doing is we'll shred it, and we'll wind up zip-bagging it or putting it in a vacuum seal bags, and we'll just freeze it and use it as we need it. So let's talk a little bit about the butt here. All right, down here you can see there's a lot of fat in this. Okay, you get these little things every once in a while. That's where there was an artery or a vein. We're going to cut all that out, so don't worry about it. There's a bone, a blade bone that goes through here, and that's usually the way a lot of people tell when their butt's done, is they take the bone and just slides right out. That's usually a good sign that you're done. So what I want to do, you get a lot of pockets of fat. You see you've got this section of meat here, all right, and this down here is what we call in the competition world the money muscle, because this is where you cut your medallions from. It cooks up nice and tender, and it's really, really good. So with that, I'm just going to start trimming away some of all this extra fat. Now, do you have to trim away all this fat? No, you don't. You don't have to do that at all. You can just go in there, put your rub on it, slap it on a smoker, call it done. But we're going to do a little better than that, because we want it to be really, really good. And this is such a thick cut of meat, if you don't inject it or prep it, you're not going to get a lot of flavor down into the deepest part of the muscle. So, and that's what we want, is flavor. So I'm just going to take my knife. I'm going to open this up a little bit so I can get this fat and other pieces out. Again, I just sharpened my knife so it slices really easily through it. You don't want to go too far and separate them. But all this right here, like I said, you don't have to cut all this out. You can take it out whenever you go to pull it, but it's not going to render down. It's just going to be chewy. It's just not going to be good. So I say get rid of it while you're doing it now. Okay. It's just more of a sinewy type. Not quite sinewy, but it's fairly tough. So we're just going to cut that out. Like I said, any signs of blood, arteries, veins, good idea to take those out, because that can taint the flavor a bit. So I'm just going to keep whacking away at this and removing it. Now, when I did competitions, which not like I did it forever, but the competitions were always, you could prep your meats. You couldn't inject them or put any seasoning on them, but you could go ahead and pre-trim them. And that's oftentimes what I did, so I could sit down. There's the clock. So I could sit down at the table, I could trim my butts, take my time, not be distracted, not be anxious, and really work on getting rid of the things that I didn't need. Plus, it gave you more time to just relax and rest up some, because competitions, you don't get a lot of sleep typically. Yeah, so. Okay, so this fat cap on the back, it's just that. It's just a thick thing of fat. Now, some people keep it and use it as an insulator. Some of it's okay to keep, but what's going to happen is, like right in here, it's going to be really thin, then it's going to get into the bone. So I just take a lot of it off, because what's going to happen is if you cook this fat side down to use as an insulator, when it's done, you go to pick this up, you're going to have a big wad of fat stuck to your cooker. So I'm going to take off most of this. In some competitions, I've gone as far as just treating this as sacrificial, because like I said, there's a bone there. It comes apart. It just gets weird. Lots of cartilage. So I just treat it as sacrificial and don't really worry about it a whole lot. And for those of you screaming, I'm cutting on a metal board. I'm not really hitting it, so not really worried about it. Okay, this stuff here, this is called silver skin. Just get rid of it. It's not going to do anything but be chewy. You see it in beef a lot too, so. All right, I could keep going and almost separate this entire thing, but I'm done with this for now. That's about the trimming I'm going to do on this. So we're done with that. So now let's talk about injecting. Go ahead and insert the jokes about injecting butts now. I'll wait. Okay, so what I use typically, because again, remember, smoke is not going to penetrate this meat. I don't care how long you cook it, it's not going to get into the middle. It's going to taste like pork, which is good. But while we're at it, why don't we inject some flavor to it? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to inject this. This is about a 7-8 pound butt. Not one of the biggest ones I cook, but I'm more interested in time tomorrow than I am volume. So I have here my injection that I've already mixed up. Now I use Butcher's Barbecue in pork injection. It's got a lot of different things, but one of the things it has in it is phosphates, and phosphates help to retain moisture. I put some hot sauce in there, and it says to mix with water, but why not bring a little flavor to the party? So I go with peach nectar because peach and pork just go together well. You can use apple juice, you can use apple cider, you can use a little vinegar if you want to, whatever you want. I figured the vinegar I'm going to get from the hot sauce. So this is enough for 2 7-pound butts. And when I inject, I don't flip it over and do the bottom because gravity's going to take over and it'll just drain out. I want the injection to stay in the pork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from the top down and some from the sides. So you can get injectors. This is one that was a Christmas gift years ago. I've had it, I don't even know how many years I've had this thing. It does a great job. It has a couple different tips to it. This one has multiple holes in it so the juice can just kind of flare out. And I've also got another needle that is just a straight needle with an opening on the end. That's really good for harder meats like brisket. So all you got to do, stick her in there, load her up. Okay. So I'm just going in, injecting it, giving a couple little squirts. And I can adjust the amount going in with this. It has a setting that I can adjust on it. So it's a nice one. It was a nice gift. So you will get stuff everywhere, so just accept that. Okay, that's all I'm going to do to this thing. She loaded. So stand by. I'll be right back. I've got to get a bag to put this in, and I'll be right back. All right, so we've trimmed our butt. We have injected it with our Butcher's Barbecue pork injection, which is mixed up with peach nectar and hot sauce. And what I'm going to do now is I've got it in a big 2.5 gallon bag. I'm going to let it rest in this bag overnight. In the morning, I'm going to put the rub on it. Now, some people put the rub on now. Again, we've talked about the salt penetrating, doing a dry brine. This has got salt in it. I don't want to add any extra salt to it right now. The thing about pork butts, if you do them with too much salt, they'll take on the taste of a ham, which isn't bad, but I don't want a ham, I want a pork butt. So that's why I'm just going to let the injection sit now, and then I'll put the rub on in the morning before I get cooking. So y'all have a good night, and I'll see you in the morning. All right, good morning, my fellow barbecue enthusiasts. So it's the next morning. It's supposed to rain today. Doesn't look like it, but it's supposed to. So today I'm going to be cooking this on the pellet smoker that I have outside because it has a smaller footprint. So, all right, I have pulled this out. I didn't wash it off, so the injection is still on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be layering my rubs. So here I have Meat Church's fajita rub, which is really, really good and savory. And here I have Big Papa Smoker's Sweet Money. It's kind of, as it says, it's a sweet rub. It's got really big chunks in it. It's really good. So I'm going to start off with the fajita from Meat Church. And again, when I'm rubbing it, I just Want to make sure I get a good even coat on there. When I do my rubbing, I keep one hand gloved and one hand open or ungloved. So this way I can move things around without contaminating everything under the sun. This rub here has a lot of pepper in it. It's really good. I've used it before. You can just really smell the pepper in it. You can see the great big pepper chunks. Now, you may say, Jeff, why aren't you doing the bottom? As I said yesterday, the bottom is just going to go to ruination anyway. So I'm not going to waste the rub on that. So I'm going to come back now here with my Sweet Money. It's Big Papa's. He has a website too. I don't know if you can tell from there, but there's some really big chunks in there in the rub. It's sweet. It's got, I think it's got a little honey in it. It's got a big chunk in there for sure. Okay, now what's the importance in a rub? Well, a rub does two things. One, it gives it flavor, but also what we're trying to develop is that bark. The bark is the hard exterior that will just be full of flavor. It'll take the smoke, and that's really where a lot of the flavor is going to come from. That's your prized pieces. So I'm going to get this outside here in a minute and get it on the smoker. We'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I've put on the butts onto the Green Mountain Grill smoker. I'm using hickory pellets today. Again, it's supposed to rain. I wanted to use the bigger smoker, but this has a smaller footprint. I can cover it easier without staining my overhead, as you've seen before. So what I've done is I've set up a rig in here. I put my butts on a rack over two pans. The reason for this is a couple things. One, there's a lot of fat that's going to render out of these butts as they're cooking, and it could be caught by the bucket, but if I can catch it here, it's a lot cleaner. Plus, if it starts to get too hot in there, I can add some water to keep the fat that drips from burning. So this is now, it's about 9 o'clock in the morning, so we're going to go ahead, and these should be done hopefully around 4 this afternoon, 5 o'clock, and then we'll introduce you to the Porkinator. It's not as bad as it sounds. So we're going to be cooking it at 230 degrees. So again, with a pellet smoker, the lower the temperature, the more the smoke, and that's what we're looking for here. So we'll see y'all and we'll check in later on. Thanks. Hi kids. So we've been on the cooker now for probably about 3 hours. And in life there are a lot of important questions that are asked, like what's the meaning of life? Why do round pizzas come in square boxes? Why are you pointing that gun at me? You know, important questions. But in the culinary world, or barbecue anyway, it's how do I know when it's time to spritz? Come my children, I shall show you. So like I said, these have been going a little while, and you see how the rub has set. I touch it, doesn't really come off. You see the big flakes of pepper and everything. So it looks kind of dry. So I'm going to take my very fancy squirt bottle that I got at Lowe's, and it's loaded basically with half apple cider vinegar and half water. The apple cider vinegar will give the outside a nice little flavor. And remember, a moist surface is where the smoke sticks. So I'm going to come back and do this again about every 30 to 40 minutes. And we're cruising along nicely here. I'm going to bump the temperature up a little bit now. It's got a lot of good smoke to it, so we can focus on getting it done. So see you guys in a little bit. Okay, so the butts have been cooking now for a few hours, and I'm out here by myself right now because I'm fixing to do some stuff, but I want to check on the butts and see how they're doing. I think they're ready to wrap. Let's peek and see. Yeah, they're perfect color right now. That's what I'm going for, temperature and color. They're about 155, 160. They've taken as much smoke as they're going to take, so I'm going to do a Texas Crutch now and wrap them in foil. Be right back. Okay, so I've wrapped up the butts. This is called the Texas Crutch. When you do this, it's a good way to kind of preserve the color so that it doesn't burn, and it's a good way to kind of help speed up the cooking too. So this is it here. I didn't show you wrapping them up because it was just wrapping up butts, but anyway, next video segment should have them coming off. See you in a bit. Okay, so the butt's been going about 8.5 hours. It's reached an internal temperature of about 205, which is a little more than I wanted it to be. So it should be good and tender. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to open her up and see what we have here. Oh, all that juice. You do not want to lose that juice. That juice is gold. Oh, there we go. That looks very nice. There's the blade bone we mentioned. Yeah, that's how it's done. That's what you're looking for, tender. Now, little top tip. To keep from burning yourself, just get some cheap Kevlar gloves. I think these came from Harbor Freight. Put some rubber gloves over them. Good hot gloves. So look at there, you can see this. We got a smoke ring. How juicy it is. It's tender. That's going to be some fine eats, y'all. All right. Now, you just stay right here looking at this. I'm going to grab a pot. And I'm going to take this butt, this really tender, falling apart almost, and I'm going to put it in this pot here. And you may say, Jeff, why are you doing that? Well, glad you asked. Because this is where the Porkinator comes in. Drop it in. And don't make the mistake of adding the juice before you use the Porkinator, because trust me, bad things will happen. Now, let me take this off real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the Porkinator. Now, this I purchased probably 7-8 years ago when I was doing barbecue competitions. Did I have to have this to pull the pork? Of course not. But it hooks up to a drill. Why would you not have this? Okay, anyway, so to quote Tim Allen, so, all right, I'm done. Now, this really works great though, honestly. It looks like a paint stir mixer on steroids. So all you do, you put the pan down there, you put your cordless drill in reverse, put it in here, press it down. Riley's happy. Riley's right. First scrapper. There we go. Now, and we forgot to put the dog out. And there you have pulled pork. Now, I'm going to take this. It's already very moist in there, very juicy. You can see it glistening nicely. But I'm not done yet. I'm going to take this liquid gold, and I'm going to put this in the sink. And I'm going to put this liquid gold back into this pork. That's flavor, folks. We don't want to lose that. Grab me cheap tongs. You just stir that. Let it reabsorb all that moisture. Look at it, it's soaking it right back up. That, ladies and gentlemen, is some tender and moist pork. Now, it's about 3,000 degrees right now, but I gotta try a little bite. That's really good. Juicy, tender, flavorful. Didn't lose all the smoke flavor doing the wrap. So, remember when you do a Boston butt, 8 to 10 pounds is good. You can get them bigger, but 8 to 10 is really good. We did an injection using Butcher's Barbecue, some peach nectar, and some hot sauce. Injected it the night before. Next morning, got up, took it out, put the 2 kinds of rubs on it. We put Meat Church's fajita seasoning and the Big Papa Smoker's Sweet Money. Cooked them about 8.5 hours at about anywhere from 230 to 275 to finish them off. Wrapped them at about 160, and here we are. It's a great thing to do. A butt's very forgiving. It's got a lot of fat in it. You can't really screw them up. If you do, you've worked hard to do it. So anyway, you get some time, get out there and practice with it. It's the only way you'll get better. And remember, let's be nice to people out there. It's kind of crazy. If you happen to think about it, maybe donating to the Red Cross or helping with the tornado victims in North Alabama and Georgia. So if you would, I appreciate it. Y'all have a good time. We'll see you next week. Take care now.